Here we are, the list. Today, we are talking about 69 to 65. Number 69 on the 100 greatest English written novels of the 20th century, as chosen by the Modern Library, is The House of Mirth by Edith Wharton. It is the story about a young society woman in New York City who has come from a rich family. Her parents have died, and the money is gone. She is struggling to maintain her position in society, but she can't because she just can't keep up with her society friends because she just doesn't have any funds to be drawing on the way they do. And she knows that she should be getting a husband to support her. That is The House of Mirth. I am not a very big fan of Edith Wharton, I suppose I should say. She has 2 books on the list, and we'll get to the other one eventually. The 2 novels that I've read, the 2 from this list, they are wholly concerned with a period in American history known as the Gilded Age, which is pre-1900, or just at the end of 1800 to the beginning. Point in American history where people are beginning to acquire ridiculous, vast wealth, I believe because there were no taxes at the time. I'm probably wrong, but that's just what's in my memory. And it was the beginning of all this New York social life, like, the name that pops into my mind is the Rockefellers. And the Gilded Age, it must have been a very beautiful time for some, the wealthy, of course. And it is a particular period in American history that is worth knowing about. It's just that after all the turmoils of the 20th century, it does seem rather quaint, especially because a lot of the writing is done in a way which is very proper. There's no dirt. There's no curse words. It's all very clean and lofty. And this woman struggles because she feels it is too much of a shame to ask for help, and she feels it is such a shame to say that she cannot participate in something that's going to cost a lot of money because, what will people think? And that's the message in this book, I guess, is what will people think if I were to admit that I didn't have any money? I'm not a big fan of Edith Wharton. I find it a bit dull. English literature at that point, that American style, it was quite clean and proper. A lot of morals. I doubt it was actually like that for the common person on the street, but all that filth came later. Main Street by Sinclair Lewis, something very, very similar to the other ones. Main Street is about a woman who marries a doctor, and the doctor wants to go back to his hometown, which is a village, or perhaps a bit more than a village, something rural. And she feels quite hoity-toity that she's married a doctor and now she's a real society woman. And she's going to go back to this village, and with her position as the doctor's wife, she's going to be a real whirlwind of social reform and all of her lofty big city ideas she's going to bring back to the village. And she's going to open up an arts institute for this, and she's going to open up a learning center for those people, and she's just going to transform the village with her status as the new doctor's wife. And she goes back there, and she's surrounded by the small-minded ideas about society that these village people have. And it frustrates her. However, there's a bit where she goes to accompany her husband on... Yukari's home. Hi there. I'll explain what happened at the end of the video, if you're interested. So, where were we? Yes. I was just finishing up with Main Street by Sinclair Lewis. What happens is she accompanies her husband, the doctor, on one of his medical calls, and he has to perform some very grisly impromptu surgery on one of the farmers. And while she is assisting him, she realizes that her husband is really someone. He is the doctor in the village, and he is a very important person. And all of her pretensions about being very artistic and being very cultural mean very little compared with what he does. That's Main Street by Sinclair Lewis. I recall that it was a bit slow, bit of that old style, but I didn't mind it. It was a nice story. It felt good. It's always fun when you have a well-written story about a character that is full of, their own pretentious hubris, and they get taken down. I will always enjoy reading something like that. Oh my goodness, Heart of Darkness. Well, if Heart of Darkness is not one of the most influential novels of the 20th century. Is it though? Well, Apocalypse Now. It seems to be the novel that is just everywhere, lurking in the shadows, that it's just omnipresent. Heart of Darkness. Maybe it's just the wonderful title, even the very poignant story about colonialism, the European nations colonizing Africa for their own resources is what it's really about. It's about a man who goes to Africa to retrieve a collection of ivory, which I don't think I need to remind anyone. Ivory is when you kill an elephant and you cut out its, beautiful... How the hell did we ever start doing anything so barbaric? How is it possible that the first person to do it, a gang of other people didn't come along and say, "Did you do that to that enormous creature?" "Yeah, I did that." "Why did you do that?" The teeth look very white, and I thought it would be really nice to make a piano out of this mammal's teeth. Well, we're quite unhappy about you murdering this enormous, beautiful creature. So Heart of Darkness, I really can't say anything about it that hasn't been said 100 times over. I do always have a very special fondness for Joseph Conrad because he was born in Poland and English was not his first language. He ran away to sea to be a sailor, to live the life of adventure. And in fact, Heart of Darkness is slightly autobiographical. Conrad was working on a vessel, I think a steamship that was going into Africa through one of those treacherous rivers, and the captain fell ill, and Joseph Conrad had to take over for him and pilot the vessel himself while the captain lay incapacitated from malaria for several weeks. It is believed that while he was captaining this ship, he came up with the idea for Heart of Darkness. Well, the white man goes to Africa to take it all, doesn't he? Yeah, you just have to read it. It's mandatory. Is it good? I'm not even sure, because while I was reading it, I felt this sort of oppressive feeling that I just had to read it to tick it off the list, that you cannot be considered well-read unless you've read Heart of Darkness, along with Ulysses and Moby Dick. I mean, you just have to do it. There's no question about it. It's not an issue of pleasure or reading for fun. You must read this book. So I should read it again. I should read all of Joseph Conrad again. God, I hope I live till I'm 300 years old. And I don't go blind. Of Human Bondage by Somerset Maugham. Philip is born with a club foot. It makes him terribly shy and it makes him very hard to meet and be friends with other boys. Both of his parents died. He's an orphan and he was sent to his elderly uncle and aunt to be raised. And they never had any children. And they are quite frank and telling him, "We never had any children and we're quite old now, so maybe we won't do such a good job as your parents, but we'll try." So he is really hindered, like right from the beginning. And he tries. He's very intelligent and he tries. And he has his artistic ideas. And like my favorite part of the book is where he goes to Paris because he decides he wants to be a painter. And then after he's been in Paris for 2 years, he sort of stumbles across a very difficult idea. He looks at his friends, his little circle of artist friends, and he sees that their paintings are not genius. However, all of his friends believe themselves to be completely genius. They believe that they are the next absolute amazing artist just ready to be discovered. And when he looks at their paintings, he just doesn't see it. And he thinks to himself, is that the same for me as well? And so he invites one of his teachers to come back to his little student apartment to look at his paintings and please tell me, are they genius? Do I have any chance? I'll just leave it there, because that one scene when the teacher comes over and looks at his paintings is so perfectly written. I read Of Human Bondage when I was 23 years old, I believe, and I loved it. But sometimes you need to question your own ideas and say, Grant, is it true that what you loved when you were 23, you still love double that time later? So I had to reread it, and it is even better than I remember it the first time. The first time I remember that it was this amazing story of a young man growing up and some of the difficult personal trials that he has to overcome. That's about it. And I knew there was something with a woman who was very unpleasant. First of all, I didn't remember that it was 700 pages, and I did not remember that it was written with so much, like the emotions that run through this novel, just slightly below the surface. They're not below the surface, they're just, it's almost like if you run your hands across the page, you're gonna feel this sticky residue of emotions because it's soaked in everything there is about being human. All of the shyness, all of the hesitation. Such a beautifully written book. And please don't let the 700 pages put you off because the chapters are very short. I think that is the key to writing a very long novel. Write a very long novel, but make sure your chapters are no longer than 5 pages. Because that way you can read a chapter a day and you can feel good. After a little while, you finish the book. Whoever you are, read it. It will speak to you. It is just like this artist calling out throughout time, saying, I have been here. I've been alive. I have suffered. I triumphed. Somerset Maugham. I don't normally recommend this because there's so much literature to read, but I think if you wanted to get really hung up and obsessed with one author, Somerset Maugham is really one of the best choices. So please read this. As long as it is, there is nothing bad about this book at all. Number 65, A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. I came to A Clockwork Orange, I think in a very normal adolescent kind of a way. I think when I was maybe 12 or 13 years old, I saw Jack Nicholson in The Witches of Eastwick. Wow, this Jack Nicholson guy, he's crazy. I want to watch his movies. And I got this very adolescent Jack Nicholson obsession. I watched his movies. I tried to watch the old ones. At the same time as I was enjoying my Jack Nicholson obsession, I was also reading novels by Stephen King. But it took me a while to make the connection that there was a film based on a Stephen King novel with Jack Nicholson as the actor. I don't know how it was. I wasn't able to put that together, but young teenager, and it was before the age of the internet. So sometimes you just had to walk around the local Blockbuster Video and see what you could see. You had to pick up the boxes and look at the back, and if you saw a picture of the guy you liked, well, you rented that one. I watched The Shining. It was very different from the book, but it was very good. That put me on to Stanley Kubrick. Even as a young person who doesn't know anything about film, you watch The Shining and you realize that something very special is happening in this film. Discovering Stanley Kubrick, I discovered A Clockwork Orange, which I would like to hereby put in my vote for the best poster art of any film of all time. Like that triangle with Alex and the knife and the fake eyelashes. It just looks so frighteningly devious, like evil, and the title, A Clockwork Orange, to comprehend what it could possibly mean. So I watched the film. I think I actually bought a VHS copy of that film. I watched A Clockwork Orange on VHS. I enjoyed it so much that I wanted to read the book. I think I was about 16 by the time I read A Clockwork Orange. Again, it's got this very weird, deviant cover art. Orange and the black bowler hat, and again, the weird eye with the eyelashes. So I opened it up, and I can't read it. It's kind of in English, but it's not actually in English. It's this futuristic, Alex is the main character, and he's telling the story of his life. And it's set in the future, and he is speaking in this future argot, this slang of the future times. That might have been one of the first books of literature I ever read. I guess I could only read it because I'd seen the film so many times and I knew what was happening. And here I can admit to you and to myself that I don't think I've read the book since I was, I think I read it when I was 16 and I read it again when I was 17. And there is a very strong likelihood that I have not read it since then. So I guess I have to read A Clockwork Orange again, which is no bad thing. However, I believe that I've read somewhere that Anthony Burgess was not altogether pleased that A Clockwork Orange was his favorite novel of the public. He preferred his other works. The trouble is, I have not a clue what else he wrote otherwise. A little bit of trivia for you. If you would like a trivia question, which you will nearly always win, here's the question. Right, if you're the quiz master. What is the name of the main character from A Clockwork Orange? Everybody knows. Alex. The first line of the novel is, there was me, Alex, and my 3 droogs. That being, Georgie, something, and Dim. Dim because he was very dim. And you say, well, yes, Alex, but what was the character's full name? At which point, they'll be entirely stumped. And I don't even know how I know his full name. Because I don't believe it's mentioned in the novel. I think it's maybe only from the film script. So the main character from A Clockwork Orange, his full name is Alex DeLarge. D-E, capital L-A-R-G-E. Clockwork Orange is very good. It is a bit of a challenge to read, and I encourage you, because you can get editions of A Clockwork Orange with like a dictionary at the back, an explanation of what the slang words mean. However, I think the great joy of reading A Clockwork Orange is figuring it out for yourself. I know it's easier to turn to the back and figure it out, but I believe that's literature. Literature is doing the work yourself and feeling intellectually stimulated because you thought about it, you considered it, and you came to the conclusions on your own steam. A lot of the best literature, the answers are not given to you, and the greatest pleasures about those books is wondering, did he or didn't he? Is it his child or is it not his child? In literature, I don't think the author should give you all the answers. I think the real artist expects the audience to do some of the work themselves. So what happened was my girlfriend came home. It was actually my wife. I just call her my girlfriend because I'm not accustomed to saying wife yet. She was quite hungry, and I was making a video, and she said, "Are you making a video?" And I said, "I am." And she said, "Well, can I eat something?" And I said, "Well, can't you just go in the bedroom for 20 minutes and I'll finish the video quickly?" And she was, well, when I'm hungry, I am the least pleasant person to be around, so I cannot cast aspersions. So she went in the bedroom, and I came back, and I tried to make the rest of the video very quickly, and when I stood up to turn the camera off, I realized that I had not turned it on. So here I am making the video 2 weeks later with a different haircut, and I hope I can cut it together so that it looks all right. What do we have next week on the list? Good. Yeah, everything good next time. I'm working on my end of the year video for the best books of 2022. And I can even do my 2023 TBR. I hate saying TBR. I hate using abbreviations. I feel like a dummy. The top 10 books I would like to read in 2023. So I'll be making those videos. I'll be putting them on Patreon. I have a Patreon page, and I have 4 supporters, which is wonderful. Thank you all very much. If you would like to see those videos early, if you support me on Patreon for just $3 a month, you can see those videos as soon as I put them up there. Sorry I haven't been making a lot of videos recently. It's been the last couple of weeks at university, and I've had my essays, and I've got 2 exams to write next week. So I've been extra busy, and there's some stuff going on here in a tiny little apartment where we live together that is taking up quite a bit of my time. So after next week, I will have a month off, and I'm going to try to make lots of videos to get, trouble is I've got to read some big books to make the video. Like, I can't just make a video, sit here and juggle balls. So I've got to have something to talk about. Thank you very much for watching. Sorry for the long delay. Sorry it's a bit of a mess today. But if you like the videos, probably you're used to that by now. All right, take care.